Hello, welcome to another Yellow Chair devotional. I'm so glad that you're back for another Bible character and another story as we explore more of the Old Testament. Now, do you have your Bibles? If not, pause quick, go get a Bible so that you can join and read along with me. Now, we are fast forwarding so fast through the story of David. David takes up all of 1st and 2nd Samuel. We're going to fast forward all the way to the book of 1st Kings for today's character. We don't have time to look at every single awesome moment in David's life, but I do recommend in the David Yellow Chair devotional video, in the description at the bottom, I have the link to the Pathfinder camporee that was all about David, the chosen camporee. And there's 5 videos that are the nightly drama of the life of David. And it shows a lot about King Saul, a lot about David as he's becoming king. And so if you want a really cool video to watch together as a family or as a class or whatever it might be, those are really, really great and another way for us to learn more about David. So for today's character card, if we're moving on from David and I see a crown, what king came next? This is David's son. He had a lot of sons, but our next king was Solomon. Solomon became king of Israel when his father, King David, died. One night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask, what should I give you?" Solomon asked for wisdom, and God made Solomon the wisest king who had ever lived. Now, when we look at all of our symbols, how would you illustrate wisdom, right? How would you illustrate wisdom if we were just trying to show wisdom? And so one of the ways, we've got pillars here because Solomon builds the temple of God. He's holding a pen. He's holding like a pen there because he did a lot of writings like the book of Proverbs. We have a lot of wisdom from Solomon. He's on his throne, and then his key phrase here says, "I will give you a wise and understanding heart." A wise and understanding heart with Solomon, who is considered the wisest man who ever lived. So let's read about his gift of wisdom. We're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 3. All right, so if we're flipping from the beginning of our Bibles, we might see Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, and then 1 Kings. 1 Kings, so Kings with the number 1 in front of it. All right, and then to find chapter 3, we use our large numbers here, or we can use our guides up at the top, right? Up at the top of my page here it says 1 Kings 2, so I know I need to flip another page. All right, so 1 Kings chapter 3, and we're going to start right at verse 1. All right, so Solomon has become king. David has passed away. And we see here right at verse 1, all right? So pause if you still need a little bit more time to find it because I want you to be able to read along with me. And then hit play when you're ready. We're going to start here in verse 1 with Solomon becoming the king. It says, Solomon made an agreement with the king of Egypt by marrying his daughter, and Solomon brought her to Jerusalem. At this time, Solomon was still building his palace and the temple of the Lord. He was also building a wall around Jerusalem. The temple had not yet been finished, so people were still offering animal sacrifices at altars in many places of worship. Solomon showed that he loved the Lord. He did this by following the commands his father David had given him. But Solomon still used the many places of worship to offer sacrifices and to burn incense. King Solomon went to Gibeon to offer a sacrifice. He went there because it was the most important place of worship. Excuse me. He offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. While he was at Gibeon, the Lord came to him in a dream during the night. God said, "Ask for anything you want. I will give it to you." Oh man, imagine if someone asked you, "I will give you anything you want. What do you want? I will give it to you." Oh my goodness, what would you answer with? What would you answer? So many things. What does Solomon say? It says in verse 6, Solomon answered, "You, O Lord, were very kind to your servant, my father David. He obeyed you. He was honest and lived right, and you showed him great kindness when you allowed his son to be king after him. Lord my God, you have allowed me to be king in my father's place, but I'm like a little child. I do not have the wisdom I need to do what I must do. I, your servant, am here among your chosen people. There's too many of them to count, so I ask that you give me wisdom. Then I can rule in the right way. Then I will know the difference between right and wrong. Without wisdom, it's impossible to rule this great people of yours. The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked him for this. So God said to him, "You didn't ask for a long life. You didn't ask for riches for yourself. You did not ask for the death of your enemies. Since you asked for wisdom, you make the right decisions. I will give you what you asked. I will give you a wise and understanding heart. Your wisdom will be greater than anyone has had in the past, and there will never be anyone like you in the future. Also, I will give you what you did not ask for. You will also have riches and honor, and during your life, no other king will be as great as you. I ask you to follow me and obey my laws and commands. Do this as your father David did. If you do, I will also give you a long life." Then Solomon woke up. He knew that God had talked to him in the dream. Then he went to Jerusalem and stood before the tabernacle of the Lord, and he gave burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. And after that, he gave a feast for all his leaders and officers. Wow, so he didn't ask for a lot of money. He didn't ask to be the most handsome man in the world or the strongest. He didn't ask for his enemies to die. No, he asked for wisdom. And God says, because you have made a smart choice, I will also make you famous. I will also give you riches. So let's see how Solomon's wisdom plays out here as we keep reading, because now Solomon has his first test of his wisdom, and he does something tricky here, and his story is a little bit sad, but it gives us a good illustration of Solomon having wisdom. So let's keep reading in verse 16. One day, 2 women came to Solomon and stood before him. One of the women said, "My master, this woman and I share the same home, and we each gave birth to a baby. 3 days after this woman gave birth, and no one was... Oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up. 18. 3 days later, this woman also gave birth to a baby, and no one else was in the house with us. There were only the 2 of us. One night, sadly, this woman rolled over on her baby, and it died. And during the night, she took my son from my bed when I was asleep, and she carried him to her bed, and she put the dead baby in my bed." So she swapped the babies. "The next morning I got up to feed my baby, but I saw that he was dead. But then I looked more closely and I saw that he was not my son." But the other woman said, "No, the living baby is my son. The dead baby is yours." But the first woman said, "No, the dead baby is yours and the living one is mine." So the 2 women argued before the king, whose baby is whose. Then King Solomon said, "Each of you says that the living baby is your own, and each of you says that the dead baby belongs to the other woman." Then King Solomon sent his servants to get a sword, and when they brought it to him, he said, "Cut the living baby into 2 pieces and give each woman a half of the baby." Wow. The real mother of the living child was full of love for her son, and she said to the king, "Please, my master, don't kill the baby. Give him to her." But the other woman said, "Neither of us will have him. Cut him into 2 pieces." Then King Solomon said, "Oh, give the baby to the first woman. Don't kill the baby. She is the real mother, for she had that compassion and love." When the people of Israel heard about King Solomon's decision, they respected him very much. They saw he had wisdom from God to make the right decisions. Wow, I want wisdom from God so I can make right decisions, don't you? You know, what's the difference between being wise and being smart? What do you think? What makes wisdom different from just being smart? That's a question for us to kind of ponder today, because I feel like for me, like I could read a whole lot of books, like if I was really into the weather, right? I could read all sorts of books and I could get really smart about it, right? I could learn and study. But I feel like wisdom has to come from a deeper place. It has to come from our relationship with God. And like Solomon has this wisdom with these women where he's able to see through the lies, and he has a way of just having this deep, loving wisdom that is able to discern right from wrong. So we are so fortunate because the same God that gave Solomon wisdom wants to give us wisdom too, because he's the source of all wisdom. All right, so think a little bit today about the difference between being wise and being smart. And why do you think wisdom made Solomon a good king? And what do you think? What are some ways that we can practice having wisdom in our own lives? Because like this very last verse in chapter 3 said, they saw that King Solomon had wisdom from God to make the right decisions. Are you facing some decisions right now where maybe you don't know what is the right or wrong choice? That's where we go to God, right? We go to God and we ask for that wisdom to make the right decisions, all right? So we're going to say prayer, and then I'll introduce our activity, all right? So bow your heads with me. Dear Jesus, thank you for Solomon's story. In James 1:5, it talks about how you will give wisdom generously to all who ask for it. So we ask that you give us wise and understanding hearts and that we might make the right decisions today. We thank you for your love. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think for a moment, how would you describe someone who is wise? Like, who is the wisest person you know? Because remember, if we think that being wise is different from being smart, you know, maybe it's a grown-up we know, maybe it's someone at church or at school or at home. And then think about, why does that person, why are they wise? What is it that gives them that wisdom? And maybe we can even ask them. We could say, you seem like a really wise person. What do you do? Find out. Now, Solomon, our chapter opened with it talking about how he was building the temple. He built a wonderful, amazing temple for God, what we would call today like a church, right? Because up until this point, they kind of had the wilderness sanctuary, like the tent that they built with the children of Israel with Moses in the wilderness. But they haven't had like an official church, a big temple. And so Solomon builds this temple. And it is a crazy thing, crazy way that he builds this temple because he wants it to be quiet. Have you ever been around a construction project? Man, I can't even hang a picture on the wall without making noise with my hammer and nail, right? But if you were to read forward in 1 Kings 6 and 7 and 8, you know, Solomon wanted the construction of the temple to be quiet because it was God's holy temple and he wanted to show honor and respect. So they cut all the materials for the temple way outside of town so that in Jerusalem it was quiet. And then they brought everything in and they pieced it all together and built this amazing temple. So in the video description below, there is a link to a Google Doc, and there's some cool activity pages. There's a coloring page, there's a word search, there's a maze, all having to do with Solomon building the temple, all right? And so just an opportunity to explore a little bit more of Solomon's story. And I hope that you have fun with that and that throughout the rest of your day, you can ponder about wisdom, that wisdom that gives us the ability to make the right decisions. Have a wonderful day.